Yeah, so I kind of doing these videos. I mean, since we haven't had much to come out for at least baseball, football. When I saw a score, the box of it was like, talked to the my local car shop owner, and this was like $300, and it's like, okay, last year was like 165. But this is just kind of some things I've done, like a lot more vintage this summer, and just a couple interesting things, some things I can just kind of show you what I just picked up. And I just off of eBay. It is the Montreal Expos ice cream helmet. But they would do like Baskin Robbins a lot of times in the summer. You'd have like these baseball helmets, and you'd have different teams. So I found this off of eBay. So like I say, they're now the Washington Nationals, and so sometimes I look for like teams that no longer, their name has changed. So I've got a bunch of these helmets. Some from Baskin Robbins, and some from just I found them like at Party Works, I think now it's called, and you can get off from eBay too. And I found this a couple years ago, yeah. And this kind of, I think from 1976, something right there. The Pittsburgh Pirates, you have, and then this is kind of what it says there. Sweet Rolling Family Restaurants. Dave Keenman, New York Mets. You could probably look at, he was named King Kong. He just hit so many home runs, but also struck out. Wilbur Wood, Reggie Smith. So they got like the MLB, probably the Players Association. Fred Lynn, he said 75 was his rookie year, so you figure Mickey Lolish with the Mets. He played a lot with the Tigers. Jerry Kuzman with the Mets. Doc Medich. Jeff Burrows. Rusty Staub with the Tigers. Jerry Morales. John Mayberry, he was a really good bat. Carlos May with the White Sox. Richie Zisk. So he got traded, I think, 76, something to the Texas Rangers. So that's why I kind of figure like what time frame I'm looking for. These cards out. Bill Matlock. You got Jimmy Wynn. So there's no, like A with the Atlanta Braves or anything, because they just didn't have probably the licensing for the actual teams. They might have just had the players. Al Oliver for the Pittsburgh Pirates, Don Gullett with the Reds, Dave Cash with the Phillies, Mike Tyson. He's not the Mike Tyson, the boxer, but say, hey, I got a Mike Tyson rookie card or whatever. Big McBride. So you see, St. Louis on there. Greg Luzis, Phillies. Cesar Cedeno, he was really good. Randy Stennett, he was second baseman for the Pirates. And then John Candelario, called the Candyman. Larry Boa. And then there's these football ones like that. So they're different. They're Crane potato chips. So you have John Brockington, Terry Metcalf, Steve Barkowski, Roman Gabriel. Played with the Rams first, and then his quarterback, Ed Marinero. He became an actor after a while. Lionel Mitchell, Baltimore Colts, Alan Page, Don Stinrud. So, I think it was, say, 76 there. So I know he did a lot with the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think it was the Green Bay, maybe Minnesota Vikings. Can't understand. He was quarterback for the Bengals. He was pretty good. Larry McCutcheon, kind of known him as more Lawrence McCutcheon. Charlie Taylor, Jim Otis, Greg Pruitt, he was quick, could return punts and stuff like that. Charlie Sanders, Ron Shanklin, Billy Kilmer. Probably wasn't the best looking passes, but him and Sonny Jorgensen, the Redskins, Roger Worley, St. Louis Cardinals, Otis Armstrong, the Denver Broncos, Doug Buffon, Wally Chambers, Isaac Curtis, Chuck Foreman. He was another pretty good running back. You know, the Vikings, they were like in 3 Super Bowls and lost them. Mel Gray, James Harris, he was quarterback for the Rams, and him and Ron Jaworski. Well, no, I don't think I have Jaworski, but they were both with the Rams for a while. Jim Hart, another quarterback, and then Greg Landry for the Detroit Lions. So that's that, and then just kind of picked up these binders. They were like $50 for both of them. So you got some 1950 cards there. It was like 1959, I think. And you got 72, 86, and there's 1970, 71. That's like this is a rookie, Jim Fregosi. That's a 1962. Don Zimmer, that's like played third base for the Washington Senators. And they probably became the maybe 65. So they became the Texas Rangers later on. Because actually were there 2 Washington Senators. One became the Twins in like 1960. And then you got Sonny Burgess, Smokey Burgess, that's like 1967. That'd be 1961, I believe. So there's like Anthony, there's Ryan Sandberg. It'd be like 1985. Andrew Dawson's 1983. George Brett 1984. I think 81 is that one, and 82 is that one. And Mike Schmidt, that'd be an 87 right there. So I just kind of go through this and of old stuff, 70s, a bunch of 60s stuff. There's some like a Nolan Ryan page. I've got most of it is like 70s with the California Angels. And then you got Pete Rose. Most of them I kind of try to sort them out a little bit better. Some of them had the backs. There's like a 1973, 72. And these are like 68, these ones here. That should be 1979 there. Paul Hershiser, Tommy Lasorda. I saw that one. There's Tommy Lasorda, 1986. So I'm just gonna try to consolidate some of these. That's a 1974. Griffey Sr., Beta Pinson, that's the 1959, I say. So Johnny Bench there, Johnny Bench. So Manny Mota, he played a lot with the Dodgers, but more of it as a pinch hitter. And that's probably 1963, I'd like to say. There's Dave Parker there. Just gonna. So I've got a bunch of like 60s and 70s stuff. Just some of them I'm just trying to see what I need. And there's your Mets there. And then what else is Dave Johnson. He just recently passed away. He was a manager of the Mets for a while. And then there's your Expos. I'd say that's the 1961 there. Got some Dave Winfield, Ricky Henderson with the Yankees. Jim Palmer there. Some 80s. Let's see here. You got the Red Sox there. There's the Clemens from 87. Jim Lombard. That's the 1967. And there's Carl Yastrzemski there. And that's all like 50s there for the most part. Got Rod Carew there, like 93. Reggie Jackson's there. And there's the A's there, Joe Morgan. I remember him more as a Philly, I remember as a Giant, mostly as a Red. And there was another team he was on too that started out with. And there's George Brett there. And there's Max. Just getting a little uppity. So I'm gonna go quickly on this one. Some things I kind of found interesting. Here's these Ken Griffey, father and son. That's there's that, and then you get this one. This like post. They probably got a cereal. They got the great one, Wayne Gretzky. And something there. Looks like football Cowboys. I'm not too sure what that is. And this is an interesting one. That's going to be Clyde Frazier, Clyde Frazier for the New York Knicks. So I don't know who had that. That's like Gal Goodrich, the Lakers. So another like an autograph. And then one of the weirder things, I say, just kind of found these like the tall boys, I guess. Jim Fregosi there. That was like 1964. So mostly, I guess they got separated. Football did these tall boys, hockey did the tall boys, basketball did, but it was just only one. This one was like, I guess they did two. They did like the regular one, and they did those tall boys. So I found these There's like a Joe Morgan there, and that had been Houston. That might have been right before they were known as the Astros. They were known as the Colt 45s until they got the Astrodome. So here's some more, vintage. There's Jim Maloney. And that's like 1965 or 66. Harmon Cold Brew. It's 1970. Trying to think if that's the 1963 then, because it's a 1962 World Series. That's a Tony Perez there from 1967. That's kind of, and also they had like higher series, different series numbers. And then I found some football ones that, this is like a Philadelphia. For a while there, Topps and Philadelphia had the NFL, and Topps had the AFL, American Football League. So in some ways, Topps had probably the better, maybe one, because you had Joe Namath there. And this one, and then also Fleer. Fleer was actually in football and baseball too, in 1963. And they would, do the Topps and Fleer where they did AFL, NFL. So this is another one that I've been kind of looking for at eBay. Brian Piccolo. He's best remembered if you've seen the movie Brian Song. He and Miguel Sayers, and he passed away with cancer. So this is, I think, 1968 or 69. Trying to remember now. Anyhow, that's kind of what I collect at times. I try to look for odd stuff, vintage stuff, some new stuff too. But nothing's really come out. So anyhow, what do you guys collect? And I'll talk later.